You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 121. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. We are still in January, so Happy New Year. I'm going to keep saying it all month long. And if you have been watching anything trending on Twitter or the internet, you will have seen mention of dry January. Now, this has nothing to do with rain. It has to do with alcohol consumption. Dry January has been around for many years, and back in the day when I sold wine, I remember it vividly because there was a lot of concern about a dip in wine sales. Now, because of COVID, because we've been at home so much more, dry January has become more prevalent, which is why I am so excited to have my guest today, the host of Sober Powered podcast and biochemist Gill Tietz. Gill has been sober for 2 years now and is sharing everything she knows about the mind, the brain, how the chemistry works with alcohol, what triggers us, how to get away from it, and why dry January is such an awesome thing. We talk about why 30 days is great for a light to moderate drinker and why people who are drinking much more than just a few glasses of wine a week need more like 2 months in order for that brain fog to clear. I loved our conversation because we have so much fun talking about this topic that seems kind of off limits for many of us. So if you are curious about a dry January or some non-alcoholic beverages, some mocktails, then definitely sit back, grab your latte, your cup of coffee, and listen to all that Gill has to share. Hi, Gill.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I am stoked to talk to you because I had started out thinking about dry January and then I saw your post and I'm like, oh, you are who I need to speak to. Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yes. So I'm Gill. I am 2 years sober. I'm a biochemist in the Boston area, and overall just obsessed with sobriety and helping people not drink.
And I'm sure that listeners will be going, why is Michelle having Gill on when Michelle talks about wine all the time? And I'm like, yes, I used to have a wine blog and I love my wine. That's not changing, everybody. But I wanted to talk to you because dry January is a thing. It was something that I was considering in December, and my husband was like, maybe we shouldn't drink in January. And I'm like, yeah, it's called dry January. He had no idea that was a thing. And of course, we went out to dinner last weekend, so I've had a couple drinks. So I'm not having a dry January, but you just brought up something great called a damp January.
Yep. Yeah, I heard about it for the first time this morning because I'm about sober stuff all the time. So Google, every time I open up Chrome, is recommending dry January type stories to me. And it recommended one that was called I'm participating in damp January. And I'm like, what is damp January? So I read it and it's 2 drinks a week. I don't remember if the 2 drinks are can they be on the same day? Do they have to be on different days? I don't think it matters, but it's 2 drinks a week for January.
And yet, isn't it funny isn't that along the guidelines when they say you should be drinking anyway? Not should be, but shouldn't go above or beyond.
Yeah, 2 drinks a week is within the guidelines for women. It's up to 7 a week, no more than 3 at a time for women. So 2 drinks a week is a pretty good lifestyle choice if that's what you're doing.
And that's kind of what I'm doing. Well, it's what I did last week, but going for not so much. And so for us, we've always been like happy hour people on the weekends after the kids go to bed, have a glass of wine, watch a movie, that sort of a thing. And when COVID hit, it seemed everybody had their lives changing with, we're watching so much Netflix, we're doing this, and our lives didn't really change in that way. But we noticed that with distance learning, we're like, oh, we got to Tuesday. We deserve a drink. And so we're trying to scale that back down to, Fridays and Saturdays, and that's it again. But I think this is something that's really becoming more prevalent for more and more people. Am I right from what you've seen?
Yeah, so what happened with COVID is it removed that appropriate time for drinking. That doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to wait for, when you get home from work or after dinner or after the kids are in bed or after, whatever is done. There's no more like appropriate time. You can just drink whenever and it's fine. So that's where a lot of people had difficulty, and because there's a lot of extra boredom introduced into our lives in quarantine, and drinking instantly fixes that problem. So it's so much easier to have the lines blurred between weekends and weekdays, and, why not have a drink on Tuesday?
Well, I have workouts on Wednesdays, so that's why not. I can't do it. I found that for myself, I feel so much better not drinking. I think it might even take a while for you to recognize that when you wake up in the morning, like, oh, I feel refreshed and good. And yet when I have a bad night's sleep, my husband and I will go, did we drink last night? Because I slept horribly. And I also, since I have a Fitbit, I'll look at, my measurements of my health and my oxygen rate and all of this stuff. And I can literally see when my body reacts to me having a few glasses of wine versus nothing.
Yeah, alcohol really has an impact on our sleep. It makes it so that our sleep is more broken. We wake up more often. It reduces the amount of REM sleep that we get, which is the restorative type of sleep. So you wake up feeling, maybe you feel like you slept the same amount of time, but your sleep was broken apart all night. And even if you were asleep, you weren't getting restorative sleep. So you're still waking up kind of tired. And I think that's great that you're recognizing that too, and that you recognize if you do happy hour on Tuesday night, it interferes with your workout on Wednesday. I think awareness is so key for people that can moderate.
Absolutely. And do you want to share a bit about yourself and your story, how you got to here?
Yeah, so I absolutely cannot moderate. It was my obsession for 5 years. It was all I wanted. It was my life's dream to learn to moderate someday, but I could not achieve it. So I started drinking when I was 22. I was really bullied in high school, so I was never invited to parties or anything. And then college, I just studied. But when I was 22, I went to grad school and everyone was drinking except for me. And I was so scared that I would go back to not having friends and having people, not want to hang out with me because I wasn't drinking too. So I started drinking, and immediately I had no understanding of how much was too much, when I would be drunk and when I wouldn't. So I would just keep drinking, and alcohol felt like the best thing ever for me. It was the best feeling I've ever experienced. So within a year, I became a daily drinker. And then the year after that, my tolerance had doubled. And that's when I realized, like, whoa, you're drinking a lot. I didn't think every day was a lot. I thought that was normal. But it was the tolerance increase that made me notice. And that's when I started trying to moderate and trying to do what you're doing and have exercise be a priority, and, have a drink limit or do this kind of damp January thing. I had all of these rules and none of them would work for me. And it eventually led to a lot of self-hatred and shame. And I developed anxiety from my drinking that would keep me up all night. It was a big mess. And I became very suicidal at the end. And that's when I was like, I'm risking my life pursuing this thing that I clearly can't do. And then that's when I finally gave it up and got sober. So I've been sober for 2 years and 2 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's it. I think it really takes willpower to not only recognize, that you have this problem, but to really get through it and push past it and make that change, and then to stick to it, because it's not like, stores stopped selling alcohol. It's not like you're all, I've got a problem, everybody stop, anywhere around me. It's still there when you go to the grocery store.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And everyone's still drinking it around me. The world hasn't changed. It's still on every TV show. We're still, seeing all of these articles about why we shouldn't do dry January because it's restrictive. And so all of these things trying to get you to drink and normalize alcohol. And I just accepted one day, like I literally can't. I'm married to a normal drinker, so I can observe, so I can observe what, moderation looks like for real, not the kind of moderation that I was trying to do. And I never drank like that. I never drank even close to that. So that helps me stay true to my sobriety too. When all these messages come in about, you deserve it, you should drink, everyone else drinks, are you really never going to drink again? And all of those romanticized thoughts, because I was a wine drinker too. And wine is so romantic. It's the most romantic alcoholic drink, which makes it even harder to stay away from it.
Yeah. I've never heard it put that way, but it sounds so nice.
I've thought a lot about it.
I was raised in a household with an alcoholic. She never defined herself as that, but my mom drank every single day. She would drink before she'd get us home from school, drink with the friends. All the girlfriends would drink. And it's still to this day, it baffles me, especially now that I'm a mom. I'm like, how did you do that? And, we'll have a drink in front of our kids on like a Sunday as they're playing in the backyard and we're barbecuing. But I'm not pouring myself a bottle of wine, while my kids are watching, because I also know that I'm responsible for them. If something happens, they don't care if they have a bad dream in the middle of the night and mommy's had, one too many. I still have to go help them. Accidents can happen. So that's always in the back of my mind. And I think that for people who are alcoholics, that doesn't trigger in their mind.
Yeah, alcohol does something really weird to your brain when you develop a problem with it. It makes it so that you're not aware, like what's going on, what could potentially happen, but you're like not fully aware. You don't get it, or you don't think it would actually happen. So an easy one is drunk driving. So you go out to the bar and your rule was, oh, I'm only going to have 2 because I have to drive or whatever. And then you have 2 and you're like, oh, screw it. I'm fine. And then you have 5 and then you drive anyways. And then the next day you're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I such a loser? Why do I always do this? Why can't I control myself? And it's weird. It's like, even though your brain knows you shouldn't drive, the message isn't being sent that you should stop drinking. It's like the alcohol is more important. One more. That message in your brain becomes so much more important than all the other messages. And it's hard to get out of that. Like looking back on my own drinking, I'm like, why did you obsessively try to moderate for 5 years when you never moderated once? Like, couldn't you take a hint? And I look back, I'm like, geez, man, like, what were you thinking? And I couldn't see the reality. And that's something that now I can see. And people who are very heavy drinkers, something interesting happens around 60 days of sobriety, that we get this big boost of mental clarity. And it's like, wow, I can think clearly for the first time. Like you can understand the world around you fully. And I think about this kind of thing a lot. And kids who get their hearts broken, like, why wasn't I enough? Or partners, why don't they love me enough? And it's awful what alcohol can do to people who are addicted to it.
It's very interesting. And, It's so true. And I can understand how there must be some sort of a fog that the alcohol creates, and it's got a lasting effect. And that's why you find this clarity.
Yeah, and that's why like you don't get the clarity immediately. So if you don't make it to 60 days and you keep going back and forth, you're never getting this clarity. You're never fully understanding what your drinking does. Like we believe alcohol is the only good thing. Like alcohol helps us parent. Mommy wine culture and this whole thing that you need wine to be a good parent. And it's not till you get at least a month off that you'll start to see, well, no, when I drink, I snap at my kids more, or when I drink, I'm not around to play with my kids as much, or they don't really like to play with me as much when I drink. And after 30 to 60 days, you can finally see like what your drinking actually does. But while you're stuck in it, it's like this crazy, weird loop. At the end of my drinking, I literally felt like I went crazy, like I had lost my mind. And then when I got my mind back around 60 days, it was amazing. And I never wanted to give it up.
So we don't need a dry January. We need like a dry quarter.
I mean, that would be the best. But if you are a light or a moderate drinker, dry January is a lot. If you're a heavy drinker, you need like a dry quarter to see like all the good things. By 90 days, there's so many benefits for heavy drinkers, but for light to moderate drinkers, 30 days is a ton. And by then you should see, like your sleep quality is better, your energy is higher, you can concentrate more, you might feel happier, your mental health might be more stable. So it all depends on how much you drink. So the more you drink, the longer these benefits may take.
Now, what about when you replace something for the alcohol? I noticed that, and this could just be because it's the holidays too, I'm eating chocolate like a crazy person. It didn't help that neighbors gifted us, like, I'm not kidding, over 3 pounds of chocolate. And so I'll put the box on the couch next to me at night and I'll just start eating truffles one after the other. And I'm like, oh, am I replacing a glass of wine with this? And I actually Googled it because I'm one of those people that always Googles everything. And I found that your liver, wants the sugar. And so you could replace chocolate or sweets, with if you were having wine or whatnot. Hopefully that's not true, but I'm almost out of chocolate anyway, so we'll find out soon.
I love that you brought that up. And this is a huge myth. So a lot of people think that alcohol is made out of sugar or that alcohol turns into sugar as it's metabolized in the liver. So then when you give up alcohol, your body's seeking this sugar. And that's actually not true. Alcohol is not made of sugar unless you add sugar to it, like in wine or some mixed drinks. But like vodka is sugar-free.
Okay, well, I'm not a vodka drinker per se, so.
Yeah. So the wine has sugar, but alcohol actually doesn't have any sugar in it. But the reason why we crave it when we give up alcohol is because it hits the same areas of the brain. So wine releases endorphins, which then go on to release dopamine, and you feel amazing and happy. And sugar will do that too. Sugar can instantly change your mood, and nothing else is going to do that. Like doing the healthy things, going on a walk or calling a friend or going to an exercise class, there's a barrier to go do that. And you don't get instant gratification from it. But sugar is another form of this instant gratification that we're seeking. So I started doing that big time in my sobriety. There was a point where I ordered delivery ice cream every day for months. It's embarrassing. It's so bad. And then I got really obsessed with takeout, and I started ordering takeout every day on Grubhub because it made me feel exciting and like I was doing something bad, and like it would instantly fix my mood. And we're chasing this instant gratification thing that alcohol was giving us. And that's why you just quickly go right to sugar because we all know that it does that too. So I'm doing a takeout free challenge right now. That's my dry January, takeout free January.
I like that.
I
I need
needed
to do a
it.
dry, sugar-free January.
You could do sugar-free February.
With Valentine's Day and everything. No,
Oh,
I just
no.
had to pre-order Girl Scout cookies for my daughter, so I'm not sure if that's going to work.
Yeah, February is so bad. But yeah, I would, if you're trying to not drink for 30 days or however many days, just eat the sugar and then eventually you can address it. Unless it makes you feel shame. Otherwise, it's fine.
Good. I like that. You've given us all permission to eat
You
chocolate.
have my permission.
If you're not drinking wine, go ahead and eat that chocolate. There is no problem.
Yep, eat it. Don't feel bad about yourself. Just focus on one thing at a time.
Why do you think it is that we've created something like Dry January and that we're all talking about it? I know that it's something that's been going on for many years, but it feels like this year more so than before.
Yeah, this year is huge for Dry January, which makes me really happy. I think a lot of it comes from the increased drinking from quarantine, and people are starting to wake up and realize more about the effects that alcohol has. I think this year might also be a bit bigger because non-alcoholic drinks are becoming more popular, with Heineken Zero being sponsored by, James Bond. So he made it cool to drink non-alcoholic beer. And then there's a lot of TV shows like Miranda.
Yeah, I
Sex
was
and the
going to
City.
bring that up. Yeah, and just like that. I was talking to a friend about it the other day, and she's like, well, Miranda's not an alcoholic. I go, yeah, she was at the bar before it even opened, before going to class. That's kind of a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah, they're showing it very subtly, and I like it. Like when I saw her go to the bar, my mind was like, psh, that's not that bad. But I'm speaking from someone who used to do the same thing. So clearly it was that bad. But I like that she drunkenly ordered the Quit Lit book. I don't know if you've been watching the show or not.
Yes. And then Amazon's like, how do you like your order?
And then that was enough. And she's like, oh my gosh, I know it's a problem. And that finally flipped that switch for her and the denial was gone. So I love the way that they're representing it because you don't have to completely destroy your life, drink every single day, fall down in public, have everyone hate you to have a problem with alcohol. It's progressive. Like if she doesn't address it now, she's going to address it in 2 years or 5 years when it's worse than it is now. So you can address it at any time. You don't have to have this like big rock bottom thing.
Yeah, you don't need that major aha moment. Any little trigger can do it. I like that. Yeah, I was convinced that Carrie was going to come forward and say, well, Charlotte didn't send you the book. I did. I was waiting for that. So I was totally blown away when she got how do you like your recent order?
Yeah, that made me so happy. It was so subtle, but it was really great because when you're really suffering in your drinking and you're feeling ashamed of yourself or you hate yourself for what you're doing, you will drunkenly reach out on, sober Facebook groups or to sober influencers on Instagram, or you'll order a book or you'll, read a website or send an email to someone. And you may not remember it, but that was amazing how they put that in.
Yeah. And your mention of, new drinks coming out and Heineken Zero, I just saw a commercial for that. And I used to love Heineken. When I have a beer, I'll have a Heineken, but that'll be one to try. And then ginger beer and stuff got me through 2 pregnancies. And it was more so not that I needed an alcohol, but to have a drink and hide it.
Yep.
From friends, because it's one of those taboo things that everyone will say, why aren't you drinking? We shouldn't be asking people that. Just a note for everybody, especially if they could be pregnant. But, to be able to not even have to think about that of, can I go to this function and not drink without, somebody asking me, why am I not drinking? Yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to change in society in order to get to that place. But I saw that Blake Lively has also launched a line of non-alcoholic beverages. I would love to try them because the alcohol-free wine that I've tried is not good.
Most have so much sugar. I can tell you some good brands that you can try that are nice and dry. I've tried a lot of them because the non-alcoholic stuff creates the same vibe without the alcohol. So you feel included. You feel like you're having a little bit more fun. You feel fancy, like a grown-up.
Yeah,
So I've tried a lot of them.
Maybe that's like the Real Housewives, why they drink water in a wine glass.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you're doing dry January and you feel like, oh, this is boring, I don't know what to do, just try to use your wine glasses. I use my wine glasses all the time. I use them for smoothies and like non-alcoholic beer, water. I use them for everything. And it's just a nice adult thing to do. It makes me feel like a cool girl.
I like that. I think that we need more restaurants to get on board too. The restaurant we went to last weekend, I looked at their cocktail menu and I was really looking forward to what kind of mocktails do they have. And it was, I swear to God, a Shirley Temple, a Roy Rogers, and a fizzy lemonade, which was just soda and a lime. I'm like, those are 5-year-old drinks that my kids have. Like, this isn't going to give me any kind of satisfaction at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I've gone to places and asked for a mocktail and they'll bring me back a glass of orange juice. And it's like, no, that's not what I meant. But I think some places are catching up quicker than others. Like I live in the Boston area and sometimes they will have a non-alcoholic beer on the menu. Usually you have to ask. It's not on the actual menu. And I've seen one place that had an actual like alcohol-free section. But I think all these celebrities that are coming forward, like Blake Lively and James Bond, even though he's not a real celebrity, but they're making it cool.
Yeah.
So more restaurants will want to offer it if it's cool. So I think this is a big year for sober curious people and sober people.
I love that. Sober curious. That's great. That's such a great little term, you know, and I love your show's Sober Powered. Can you share about that, please?
Yeah. So when I stopped drinking, I had the stigma in my head that I chose to drink that way. I was weak-willed. I was a loser, all of these things, that it was my fault. And I wanted to understand, like, is that really true? Is it my fault? So I started reading the scientific literature because that's what I do for my job every day. So I started educating myself on addiction. And eventually I learned so much. And it was helping me let go of the shame that I decided to start a podcast about it. So I explain these really complex topics and like what's going on in our brain. Why are we unable to stop when it's clear that, you know, we're not someone who can moderate? So stuff like that. And it's helped my sobriety so much to do my show.
I love it. And you're a biochemist for those who don't know it. You're smarty pants.
Not that smart, but I try.
You are. My brother majored in biochemistry and I'm like, no, chemistry, science. Like I did it in high school so that I wouldn't have to do it in college.
Smart.
Yes, I am in that sense, right? Oh, I love it. And I'm going to keep following you on your journey and I'm going to try my best to get 30 days in.
Yeah, keep me updated and I can send you a bunch of links for non-alcoholic wine that will make you feel like really fun and cool. And, you know, the mind is so powerful. It can make us believe that it's like almost a real wine. And so you never know. It may really help you.
I would love to find something that is non-alcoholic that tastes as good as my, you know, Chardonnay or my Cab or my Red Blend.
Okay, good. You gave me some. I just had a bunch of ideas. So I'm going to I'll send you an email with some links.
Perfect. We'll get them in the show notes because I know everybody who's listening is going to be like, I want it too. I'll report back.
Yeah.
Can you share with everyone where they can find you, please?
Yeah, so you can connect with me. If you search for Sober Powered, you'll find me. I'm on YouTube. That's my podcast. That's my Instagram. I also have a Facebook group if you're sober curious. and you just want a safe space to share your thoughts. So you can join that or connect with me on my website. You can find my email there.
Thank you so much. You are such a pleasure to talk to. This was fun.
Yeah, I had so much fun. I enjoy talking to people that are not in the recovery community. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, friends, I am going to report back to you on the list of alcohol-free wines that Gill sends me because I am definitely curious on what she has to recommend. Like I said before in the interview, I have tried some of the alcohol-free wines and they taste like grape juice or cough syrup. It's just not good. So I'm really excited to do that. I will continue to have a journey this month and maybe into February of trying to be more dry. You know, damp January doesn't sound too bad. And I have had a couple of glasses this month. We're in the middle of the month, so that's not too bad, I would say, for me. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about dry January. And if you want to try it and are sober curious, let me know. Sneak into the DMs, send me an email, and let's go on this journey together. Let's get healthier and get in that mindset that we can achieve anything that we try. Until next week, my friends, stay curious, enjoy your glass of wine if you want to, and don't be afraid to eat the chocolate.